Welcome to the Self-Growth Nerds podcast. I'm your host, Marie, a courage coach, creative soul, and adventure seeker. Since through hiking the Pacific Crest Trail in 2019, I'm on a mission to help you embrace your most confident self so you can achieve your dreams too. If you're eager for deep conversations, big questions, and meaningful connections, join me on the quest to discovering how we can create a more magical and memorable life. Hello, nerds! How are you doing? I'm really good. Today, I want to jump right into the subject. We're talking about how to settle down without getting bored. I don't know about you, but I'm 32 right now, and as soon as I turned 30 years old and I came back from the Pacific Crest Trail, I felt an inner shift where I didn't want to approach life like I did in my 20s, where I tried a bunch of different things and went on trips and adventures and didn't worry about the future. I felt a shift where I want to start building foundations that will support me through my life. And I also crave more stability. I have a bit less energy and I love my cocoon at home. I want to make it cozy, but at the same time, I don't want my adult life to be boring. I want it to be adventurous and exciting. I want to learn new things all the time. I want to have deep connections. I want to feel like there's a hint of magic in my everyday. And I deeply, deeply believe you don't need to plan a 6-month thru hike or a trip around the world to be able to achieve that. Of course, these things are nice and you can keep doing them as you grow older, but you don't need to be going on adventures all the time in order for your life to feel adventurous. When I came back from my trip, I remember going to a design agency where I often did freelancing for. And one of the people there, she said, "How's it going, since you've been back?" And I said, "Oh, it's hard. It's hard readjusting to quote unquote real life." And she replied with something like, "Oh, well, that's what it's like. You come back from holiday, that's what it's like. You just have to suck it up." And I rebel against this widespread idea. I do not sign up to how adulthood should be this sound and reasonable and responsible way of living. There is a depression pandemic right now. So many people are feeling sad and low and hopeless. And that's for a reason. The structures that we've been submitting ourselves to do not work. They do not bring us joy. So that's why I think the solution is to rebel against those structures and shift things, see things differently. I think it's possible to have a 9-to-5 job and pursue your dreams, to honor your responsibilities and have empowering boundaries, to pay your bills and to go on spontaneous adventures, to be there for loved ones and to create new connections. Your need for security is completely normal, doesn't make you boring, and it can 100% coexist with your need for flexibility, for meaning, for fulfillment, and joy. Contrary to popular belief, it's not either or. You can have both if you intentionally craft and work towards a vision that includes both. You can also settle down without getting bored because boredom is a state of mind that you can opt out of. And because freedom is a feeling that you cultivate from the inside out, not something that you find on your next trip or that you find in quitting your job. One thing you can do right now that's really going to help is developing a childlike sense of wonder, of mischief, and joy. And I'm going to go through these 3 mindsets, okay? And give you lots of examples. So the first one is wonder. So instead of focusing on what is, kids focus on everything that could be possible. Their imagination has no limits. They are masters at questioning everything, sometimes annoyingly so. Like, why do we do this? This doesn't make sense. Calling out the nonsensical bullshit without judgment, just out of curiosity. They want to understand. And they ask why all the time. And we need to be more like this. One question that's very practical that you can ask yourself very often is, I wonder how I can do this differently. How can I do this differently? Okay, if you have something coming up in your day that feels boring or dreadful or heavy to you, you ask yourself, how can I do this differently? This question can open up to more flexibility. There's not a one-size-fits-all way of doing things. I'm going to give you examples. So I was talking with my cousin this summer, and he hates his job. And he told me, well, it's okay. I only have 15 years left before I can get my retirement. And I was like, what? 15 years is a long time. So I tried to brainstorm with him about what work meant to him and how he could do it differently. And he told me, to me, work is giving my time in exchange for money. And that is one way of seeing things that we've been accustomed to. But in 2021, there are so many ways to make income, not just exchanging your time for money. For example, I have passive income from my intellectual property. I teamed up with a friend of mine. We created a product. It didn't take forever. It was simple. It was effective. It's super helpful. And it brings both of us passive income every month. Basically paid for my holiday this summer. While I didn't have to exchange any of my time, except at the beginning and some follow-ups every month, for that money. So that's just an example. It doesn't mean you need to have passive income. It's just to open up the possibilities. You have to wonder what's possible. Otherwise, if you have a fixed mindset, then you are facing a wall. Another thing I do differently that keeps me growing is that I spend more on mental health, physical health, mindset, and professional support than I do on rent, car, and food, and clothing and decorations and all those things. So most people's expenses go towards material possessions. Mine go towards intangible, but very, very valuable support for my mental, physical health and my mindset at work and in life so that I can move forward with peace of mind and a good rhythm. To me, that's very, very valuable, and that's what's allowed me to make so many changes in my life in the last few years. So again, you don't have to do this, but it's just to show you that you don't have to follow the pre-existing model and you can create your own. No matter what we're talking about, if it's where you spend your money, how you apply for a job, you can create your own model. And this question, how can I do this differently, can also lead to more fun in your life. There was a design agency where I wanted to work at a few years ago. And instead of just sending my resume with a portfolio, I went to their place and I put a plant with a handwritten letter in the plant in front of the door. I knocked and I ran away. I've done many things like this in the past, and it doesn't always get me what I want, but often it's helped me stand out. And with this specific example of the plant, I didn't get the job then, but I did 2 years later receive a call from them that they wanted my help on something. I don't think they remembered about the plant. I don't think they linked me and the plant together. But sometimes we have to do things just for the fun of it without expecting a result. And when we do things and have fun doing them, I believe that the universe then rewards us. Okay, it might take 2 weeks, might take 2 years, might take 20 years, But when we have fun doing things, the universe is backing us up. This question, how can I do this differently, can also lead to deeper connections. My downstairs neighbor, I've told you about them. The woman, she's a big reader, actually they both are. And she offered last summer to lend me a book. I said no in the moment because I was already reading something. And then a few weeks later, I changed my mind. So again, with the handwritten letter, I wrote her a little note, put her in front of her door, because I was thinking, oh, how can I ask her for the book? Do I just wait until I run into her? Do I go knock on her door? And I was like, you know what? I'll just write a little note and it's gonna be fun. And so I did that. And next thing you know, the next day, there's the book on my doorstep with a box of tissues and a cute note. And I've done these kinds of things throughout my life, and it's brought so much magic for me and for people around me. What also leads to deeper connections is this question. What's the most interesting question I can ask right now? So many of us quirky introverts do not like small talk. We're allergic to small talk, right? And so there are places we don't like going, like networking events or your partner's family events or things like that. Or a party where you might not know many people because we don't want to have to go through excruciating small talk. 100% understand that. That's why I now approach conversations differently, as often as I can. For example, it was my dad's 60th birthday in August. And the party ended up in a house of a friend that invited us there with people that are mostly my parents' age from their circle. And old me would have probably thought, oh, this is not my kind of people. What are we going to talk about? They're going to ask me about my job. I'm going to have to ask them about their job. And that's how I would have approached the situation, with a lot of judgment. But what happens if you turn that judgment into curiosity? And when you're in conversation with someone that you wouldn't necessarily connect with easily, you can ask yourself, what's the most interesting question I can ask them right now? And this leads to different kinds of conversations. And sometimes you might hesitate because you think, oh, maybe that's a weird question, or maybe it's too private. But people love it. And those who don't, those who have a weird reaction, they're not your people. But I swear, most people love it. So rack your brains and think, oh, what's the most interesting question I can ask them? How can I open the conversation and go on a different path? My sister is funny for that. She's known for her weird questions, but she doesn't preface the questions with like any softener. She's like, hi, my name is Julie. What's your favorite fruit tree? That's like on one extreme, and that's amazing. But you can also be in the middle where you just try to think of a different subject that you can ask them about. All right, so that was for wonder. Now let's talk about mischief. Mischief is like a playful way of going against the norms and the expectation and exploring the limits of what's possible. Kids do that all the time. You tell them not to do something and they look at you with like a little smile and they see which of your buttons they can push and how far they can push them. When I was a kid, we went to Disney World with my family and there was a show, it was Anastasia, I think, that we wanted to go watch and it was full. The auditorium was full, it was sold out, and my dad is prone to mischief. So he was like, let's find the backstage. Let's find the back door and try to make it to the show and we can watch from the sidelines. We did find the back door and made it about 10 or 15 steps in. I was feeling very embarrassed because we were so obviously lost tourists. But that's what I mean by mischief. And sometimes it doesn't have to be so blunt. It can be in the small things. It's about refusing the this is how it's done. So whenever you feel a sense of this is how it's done, you can bend the rules a little bit or stand your ground. I'm going to give you examples again. So a few weeks ago, I was offered an illustration contract to illustrate a novel for teens or tweens, to illustrate the cover and the illustrations inside. And this normally would have been a dream contract of mine. I didn't mind if I was going to have to work at nights and on the weekends to do it. I really wanted to do it until they told me, your prices are too high. We usually give about $300 for the cover. And I was like, this doesn't make sense. I would never feel comfortable putting all of my creative juices into something and taking care of creating a worthy result and be paid $300. But they told me, oh, we've worked with illustrators before and that this is how it's done. I refuse. I put my foot down. I said, no, this doesn't make sense. This is not how I do it, and I know for a fact that many other illustrators would not accept this either. Be careful, because often people in higher positions, if I may say so like this, or people that have more power, will pretend like they know better what's good for you. That can even be your parents or people that you look up to, who might act like they know better what's better for you, but no. You are the expert of your own journey, and you get to decide the world that you want to create, whether it be your world, how your world works, and the bigger world you want to live in. By making this decision about the illustration contract, for example, I get to say a word about the illustration industry and make a little mark so that when they approach an illustrator again, they know that not everyone accepts their bullshit. Excuse my French. You gotta be bold enough. And sometimes you are gonna make mistakes. And you are gonna be wrong. But it's better to barge in and make mistakes than to keep yourself small. And remember that you can always apologize. In Rachel Rodgers' book, We Should All Be Millionaires, she says that research shows that agreeable women earn less than disagreeable women. Because as women, we have been taught, we have been conditioned to just be grateful for what we have and not to ask for more. But that ends up creating a life in which you feel constrained and limited and restricted. You've got to let yourself want more. And sometimes you've got to be mischievous in going to get more. A question that you can ask yourself is, so what? Okay, if someone thinks you're too loud or you're not doing things how they're supposed to be done, ask yourself, so what? And so what if I failed? I tried my best and I learned. So what if they think I'm lame or annoying? I think I'm pretty damn cool. So what if they think I'm too much? I'll find people who think I'm the right amount. So what if I say the wrong thing? Or so what if I upset them? I can always apologize. I was telling a client of mine recently that caring is a good trait to have. Otherwise, if you didn't care at all about people and your impact on them, then you would walk through the world and hurt people and steal their cats. That's what I was telling her. And we don't want people like this. We want to be considerate, but we want to be considerate and also not get bogged down by unnecessary drama. Do you see the difference? You want to be driven and be willing to fail and be willing to make mistakes, because that's how you're going to achieve big things. And you can always readjust if someone gives you feedback or a piece of criticism that you have decided makes sense and is appropriate. Not all the negative feedback you're going to receive is going to be something that you want to apply. You get to decide. And you got to keep in mind that proactive and happy people are too busy living their best life to criticize you. Okay? The unnecessary, unconstructive criticism always comes from people who don't feel good about their life. I'm going to say that again because it's really important. The unconstructive criticism always comes from people who are not in the arena, to use Abraham Lincoln's term and Brené Brown's retelling of it. Those of us who are in the arena trying things and getting dirty and falling in the mud are not out there pointing fingers. Those that are sitting in the benches watching people in the arena, it's so easy for them to have opinions. Let them have their opinions and just keep moving. All right, that was mischief. Now, let's talk about making joy a priority. Okay, that's a skill that small kids are really good at. Small kids are intrinsically joyful when their needs are met. Before the conditioning sets in and they start trying to fit into what society wants them to be, they're just happy. And if there's something that they need to do that is not fun, they won't do it. They'll be like, no. That's why parents have to find creative ways to turn mundane activities into games. Like, oh, getting dressed. Okay, how are we going to make getting dressed more interesting for them? That's kind of what you have to do for yourself as an adult. Maybe it's like having a bowl of Smarties next to your desk while you do a task that you don't like, or putting a song on. You have to think about what's fun for you and how you can include it in your life. My sister, again, she has a bowl that we call Michael, and it just makes you happy every time you open the cupboard, because Michael has a little face. It's a bowl with a face with the actual features coming out of the ceramics, and it just makes all the meals that you eat in that bowl feel more joyful. So a question to ask yourself that's really practical, that you can ask yourself 10 times a day if you want, is where is the joy right now? Looking for joy creates magic, and magic keeps the boredom away. So that might mean, okay, where's the joy right now? Well, the joy right now would be for me to go sit on the porch and read for 5 minutes, or to just take a break and pet my cat. Where is the joy right now? Sometimes you get into the habit of thinking, I cannot do this, I'm busy, I have to go through my to-do list. But just taking a moment to give yourself the gift of joy, it's going to make you so much more productive afterwards. We all have had moments, I had one the other day where I was trying to make something work and it was not working, and Ollie asked me, do you want to come for dinner with my friends and I was like, I don't have time, but okay. And I went for dinner with them, came back, my problem was fixed in 2 seconds. Follow the joy always. Few more stories. When I was in Belgium, traveling in Belgium, it was a while ago. I was sitting on a terrace, the terrace of a restaurant, drinking my small glass of white wine, and I just had this face, okay? Because when you're opening yourself up to joy, changes your face. You're in the receptive mode. That's how Abraham Hicks says it. You are in the receptive mode. When you're looking for something, when you're curious, when you've got your search lights on, it shows on your face and makes you more approachable. So back to that terrace in Belgium, I was sitting there. People were walking past. I was just thinking, drinking my wine, having a good time. And these 2 men walked past. And one of them said to the other, oh, keep walking. I just want to sit there. And he asked me, can I sit with you for a few minutes? And I was like, sure. Had a good feeling about him. He had white hair and bright red pants and a red scarf. And he sat with me, and don't remember exactly what he said, but it was something along the lines of, oh, you seem like such a kind person. Who are you? What are you doing here? And we had a small back and forth, and then he said, all right, have a good, beautiful evening. I'll go join my friend. And that is a memory I'll never forget. There was another time where I decided again with a glass of wine to go after a big work day in a design agency. I went and sat at the bar of a restaurant to have a glass of wine, just with myself, and then started talking with the person next to me, and he offered to split his dessert with me. And these are really random things. But when I tell those stories to my friends, they always say, why does this always happen to you? Sounds so fun. My life is so boring. And I'm like, no. It's just a matter of showing up in places with no expectations other than looking for where the joy and the possibilities are. All that being said, I also have to be real and tell you that, yes, as adults and as ambitious goal setters and big dreamers, there are always going to be things we'd rather not do in the moment, but that we know are good for us or for where we want to get to. Sometimes prioritizing joy as adults also means delaying instant gratification. Sure, we want to feel good, but what about great? If you can have comfort or joy, which do you choose? Are you willing to endure discomfort if you know that the joy that will result from it will be magnificent? The PCT. When I hiked the PCT, there was many days where following the joy would have meant sitting in a river in the sun and not hiking. And sometimes I did that. And sometimes I knew that if I was to follow the joy all the time, I would not get to my bigger objective of making it to the northern terminus. And the joy that having completed that journey was going to bring me was bigger than the momentary pain I had to go through in order to keep moving forward. Okay, just like if we take a real life adulthood example, just like I have a date with myself every month to look at my finances. It's like my least favorite time of the month. I look at all the money that goes out and into my account, and that's not fun, but it's a small price to pay for the peace of mind that I have on all the other days. Okay, the joy that I have on all the other days because I don't have to worry because I know what's going on. So let's recap. What's going to help you settle down without getting bored is first crafting a vision that allows for both and then implementing that vision. And second, developing a childlike sense of wonder, mischief, and joy. And living that sort of life is not going to be a piece of pie. Do you know why? Because you will be going against the current. You will be questioning centuries-old expectations. You will be prioritizing joy. And there will always be people who feel threatened by you because your alternative approach to life invalidates their victimhood and forces them to see their limitations as self-imposed. But their anger is not your responsibility. They can always change their mind and come along for the ride. In the meantime, all of us brave and bold souls will be joining hearts and supporting each other in the journey to freedom. So if you want to start making those shifts, but you don't want to do it alone, join the waitlist for my program Brave and Bold that's going to open at the end of October. The program is going to help you make your daily life more meaningful and more adventurous, but without having to make huge and scary changes. And I swear it's possible. All right. That's it for this week. Before I go, I want to let you know that my pre-trail book and my post-trail book are available. The second edition just came out last week with more prompts and bigger pages. There are 2 introspective journeys that you can do before and after a backpacking trip. They're amazing for you if you have a big dream or if you are a nostalgic hiker, and also as a gift for someone who fits those boxes. So go to my Instagram. There's a link in my bio where you can go and purchase these workbooks. All right. Have a beautiful week. Bye-bye. You just listened to the Self-Growth Nerds podcast. Make sure to subscribe and to find me on Instagram at Self-Growth Nerds. If you want individual help developing the confidence to create a more meaningful and exciting life, visit selfgrowthnerds.com today to learn how. Finally, I want to thank my friend Etienne Galano for editing this, and I want to thank you, kind-hearted souls, for growing into your truest, most courageous selves every day and making this world a better, more beautiful place. My name is Marie, and I will talk to you next week.